were very popular. And in fact, when NBC tried to cancel Star Trek after its second season, they approached Irwin Allen to see if he would do a show for NBC, because they wanted to have a sci-fi show on. They just didn't want it to be topical. And but the protesters came out, the letters came in, and so they picked it up for a third year. They put it in the dead slot, and they got rid of it. And so during the 1970s, you see the fight now in these two new volumes, where Roddenberry is the popularity of the show keeps increasing. The reruns are doing amazing. They're beating first-run network shows. The conventions are kicking off. The merchandising is kicking off. Everything's happening. And everybody's saying, why can't we have Star Trek back? And I wondered that, because I was a teenager during that period. And it was like, everybody I know is watching this show. Why isn't it not back in production? You read these books, you find out why. You find out the resistance to putting it back on the air.
Yeah. Didn't also a lot of it have to do with the studio, Lucille Ball, and financial?
Lucy is a hero. Nobody really knew this until my books came out. Now you can Google it, and a lot of stuff will come up on the internet about it. I kind of broke the story in these books because I had access to all the show files and all the memos and so forth. And Lucy, Desi Arnaz taught Lucy something, is that the only way a studio can survive is to own the properties. And they owned I Love Lucy. And that's what allowed them to buy RKO and turn it into Desilu Productions. And it was a very busy studio. Andy Griffith was shooting there, Dick Van Dyke, Danny Thomas, everybody was shooting at Desilu, but they're just renting the facilities. And so after the divorce, after Lucy and Desi divorced, Lucy is now president of Desilu. And she told her production heads, Herb Solow and Oscar Katz, she said, bring me in some properties that we can own, and bring me in something that can rerun for 10 years like I Love Lucy has. And that's how long it had been rerunning at that point. And Oscar brought in, Herb and Oscar both brought in Star Trek. And she got behind it. And the board of directors, the old guard, they called them at Desilu, kept trying to talk her out of doing it. They were saying, this show will bankrupt the studio. And so even after NBC ordered a pilot, they tried to talk her out of doing it. And then NBC didn't take the pilot, but they ordered a second, which had never been done before. And the old guard tried to talk her out of doing it, but she did it anyway.
Yeah.
And then NBC orders the show. They ordered 16 episodes, the first half of the first season. And the old guard tried to talk them out of doing it again, tried to talk Lucy out of doing it. And they said, you'll destroy the studio. It's too expensive. And she went with it anyway. Well, guess what? They were right. She was right in the fact that this is a show that could rerun forever, just like I Love Lucy, and they're both still in reruns. But the old guard was right in the fact that it was too expensive. So halfway through the second season of Star Trek, Lucy had to sell Desilu to Paramount because she had run out of money. And they came in, and they slashed the budget of Star Trek, and that's why the third season isn't as good as the first two. Not that anybody had lost their talent. The scripts are very good. The first drafts and the second drafts and the third drafts of the scripts are quite good, but they had to keep taking things out of them in order to be able to do it on the budget, which had been stripped down. And Bob Justman said, we're trying to do half a science fiction movie every week on the budget of a radio show.
Yeah.
So that when you watch the third season, it's not as good, but the concepts are wonderful to most of these episodes. And some of my favorite episodes of Star Trek came from the third season. And so, the talent was still there. The determination to do quality science fiction was still there. They just didn't have the money.
Oh, yeah. And too, wasn't she running another major show? I'm trying to think of the name of it. It was a spy show.
I Spy. Yeah. So when these properties were brought into Lucy, the only show she owned was the Lucy Show, which was the reincarnation of I Love Lucy after the divorce, and Untouchables was a big hit for Desilu, but that had gone off the air. A few other shows.
Mission Impossible.
Pardon me?
Mission Impossible?
Yes. So Bruce Geller brought in Mission Impossible, and Gene Roddenberry brought in Star Trek, and Sheldon Leonard brought in I Spy. Well, these were the three most expensive shows being made on TV at that time. Now, Lucy didn't own I Spy. Sheldon did. So he was putting up the extra money for that particular show. But all three of these series were filming right next to each other at Desilu from 1965 through 69. And Mission Impossible continued beyond that. And I Spy was a huge hit. Star Trek was way more popular than it's been given credit for, but the ratings reports prove that in the books. You can own all the ratings from all the episodes in these books, and they show you what it was doing. And Mission Impossible was a big hit, winning Emmys and so forth. I Spy was winning awards. It was up for Emmys and won Golden Globe as best show on TV and so forth. So Desilu really kicked off these three great one-hour dramatic shows. And Desilu is pretty much known for half-hour sitcoms, but it really put these three shows out. And when you think about what these shows did for television, I Spy was the first show to do interracial casting on a big level. We had Rochester on the Jack Benny show. We had Beulah, who was a black maid working in white people's homes. We had Amos and Andy. But I Spy came forward and put Bill Cosby with Bob Cope on equal level as spies. And it was quite a big deal. To show you how, I did a book on I Spy too, and to show you what a big deal it was, is the headline in Daily Variety when NBC said they were going to put this show on the air. The title on the front page was, the headline was, NBC to test which way the winds are blowing in Dixie. And the whole point of the article was, will the Southern affiliates carry this show? It's the test show to see if you can put a black character on equal status with a white, playing a non-stereotypical role, and will it get carried? And it did, and it became a top 10 hit. So, and then the following year, Star Trek comes on with an interracial cast. So, and Mission Impossible comes on and has Greg Morris in that show. And so it really opened the doors for interracial casting and different ways of doing drama, very adult ways of doing drama.
Oh, don't forget that special kiss with Shatner.
The interracial kiss?
Oh, yeah.
Between William Shatner and Nichelle Nichols. Now, that was in the third season. See, that's what I mean when I say the third season did a lot of very important episodes. They tried to do that in the first year, and NBC wouldn't let them. But in the third season, they did an episode called Plato's Stepchildren, where there was the first interracial kiss. Now, we should be very, very clear. We had seen a black man kiss a white woman on TV before. Sammy Davis Jr. kissed Nancy Sinatra on a special that she had 1 year earlier. But it was a variety show, and he was one of the Rat Pack. And he knew Nancy. They were friends. They were all family. And he came out and gave her a kiss on the cheek. But 1 year later, Star Trek does it in a scripted episode. And it didn't go down easy. NBC had their executives on the set. They were throwing a fit over it. And they were a very progressive network. I mean, they were the network that put on Star Trek. They were the network that put on I Spy. But they were just afraid that this interracial kiss would cause problems and Southern affiliates would drop the show or not carry the episode. So they made Gene Roddenberry film it two different ways. One time where they actually kiss and one time where they don't. And they shut down the set for half a day fighting over this. And Gene Roddenberry finally came on the set and said, well, let's just shoot it two ways and we'll fight about it later. And they said, okay. So they filmed both ways. Well, guess what? William Shatner, let's give him credit. The camera was on him, and what the NBC executives could not see, only the camera could see, is that when they did the fake kiss, which means they just touched cheeks, he crossed his eyes into the camera, and it was an unusable take. So now weeks later, they're editing the episode, and there's nothing to debate. There's only one usable take, and that was the real kiss.
Yeah, Shatner, you have to give him credit on a lot of things. I just listened to the other day where he was doing a commercial, and he was in the sound booth, and the representative for the company was there and started telling Shatner how to do it.
Is that great? I heard that too a couple months ago. Somebody sent me the link to it. It's on YouTube, I guess. And if your audience wants to find it, if they Google, what was it for? It was a public service announcement. Shatner doing a public service announcement and giving the director a hard time, the guy in the booth.
Yeah, the guy in the booth was sweating
and the guy's
bullets.
telling him what to say, and Shatner says, so, you want me to say? And he repeats what the guy told him, and it's terrible. And the guy says, well, not quite like that. And he says, well, but that's how you said it. He says, well, I want you to say it the way you would say it. Yeah, but you're telling me what to say. And it's hysterical. And he's not difficult to work with. If he was difficult to work with, he wouldn't have had the great career he's had and still has. He's easy to work with. But this guy was overstepping himself, and Shatner just basically shut him down. And it's a scream. Your audience has to find this thing on YouTube and listen to it.
Yeah, I tell you what, I listened to it. I was cracking up because I could just imagine, because, being in radio all my years, if somebody would have done that to me, I probably would have just done what they told me to do. But Shatner, had the, what, to get there.
Oh, this poor guy. I mean, I felt sorry for him the first time I listened to it because he's begging Shatner, no, ignore what I said, just do it. No, you told me to do it this way. and it's terrible. And this guy's trying to eat crow. And you feel bad for him, but if you listen to it a second time and you understand that Shatner is basically saying, look, I've been doing this forever. You're a kid in the booth telling me how to say something, and he repeats it back exactly the way the guy said it, and it's terrible. And it's funny. You could probably put the link up on your website and help your audience find it, because it's a lot of fun to listen to. And a few people will listen to it and think, gee, he's being an a-hole, Shatner. I don't think so. You listen to it, and this guy is kind of like standing up for himself and standing up for the message that's going to be delivered. And I think, but it's funny. It's funny to listen to. Oh,
it was probably the funniest thing in the world. I just think, Shatner, I don't know. I give him credit. I mean, he just made a movie here. It's just got released. What's he in his mid-80s?
I think he's 80. Yeah, maybe 81, 82. And he said this a few times. He said that he believes the day he stops working, he'll die. So he keeps working, and he's got so much energy. I mean, he looks 10 years younger than he is. He's got the energy of a man 20, 30 years younger than he is. He's got all of his facilities there. He's writing, he's directing, he's acting, he's doing so much. And but that's the way he is. Here's an interesting story.
Okay, what, Mark? We gotta wait because we're on radio stations. We're gonna have to go on break here. You're listening to Marc Cushman, who wrote a great book on Star Trek, also on one of my other idols, Robert Culp, and I Spy. I tell you, that is probably my most favorite show of all times. Is I Spy, and I tell you, if you were a teenager when that show came out, you would understand why. We all wanted to be spies. We wanted the beautiful women. We wanted to travel the world. Anyway, we'll be back with Marc Cushman in about 2.5 minutes. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. Check out the web at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. We'll be back.
Hair treats her